South Harmon family, the college football season is just a mere 7 weeks away. I'm Cody Carpentier, and I'm here today to break down 5 players I'm looking forward to in the 2024 college football season in the Heisman conversation. 5 players you need to be watching. I know everybody wants to talk about the favorites, the Carson Becks, the Quinn Ewers. Hell, there's a new leader in the clubhouse, and his name is Dillon Gabriel at Oregon. We're going to talk about those guys, and then we're also going to talk about my top 25 power ratings as we head into fall camp beginning here in just a couple of weeks. I appreciate you guys all for tuning in, tapping in here on the South Harmon YouTube channel. Big things coming. We're going to be covering you all angles of everything. We're here, your boys at South Harmon. Please click that like button. Please click subscribe and stay tuned in and stay tapped in. We appreciate you. We love you. All right, let's jump into this Heisman conversation because there's a bevy of names here that I think are very interesting. Back in February when we were in Indianapolis for the NFL Combine, I actually made a bet on the Heisman, and that was on 2 players. First and foremost, I made a long shot bet on Jaden Blue, the running back for Texas, at 20,000 to 1, pretty much knowing he's not going to do it, but if CJ Baxter were to get hurt, the opportunity is there. The other one was Will Howard. Will Howard, I believe I got at plus 2,200. His numbers are now at FanDuel up to plus 1,400, or should I say down to plus 1,400. And then at Bet365, the lowest numbers at plus 1,200. Highest numbers at ESPN Bet and Caesars plus 1,600. He's actually tied 5th/6th with Jalen Milroe from Alabama in the Heisman Award. Will Howard is one. He's got all the weaponry around him at Ohio State. The team on paper should be the leader to win the national championship. I know Georgia's coming off of being hot, and last year, of course, Michigan, who's regressed, but Ohio State's in the spot to succeed this year if, of course, they can get past Michigan and that defense. The new college football game, the quarterback that was on the cover of that game was Quinn Ewers. Again, people know I do some work for orangebloods.com. I personally do not believe Quinn Ewers belongs in this conversation. There's enough talent around him to succeed. There's enough talent around him for this team to win 11, 12 games, be in conversation. But to get to that 40 touchdown threshold, to get to that 4,000 yard threshold with this running game and a top 5 offensive line in college football that Texas has, I'm not quite sure the output's going to quite be there for Ewers. Now, again, if he goes 37 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, throws for 3,800, they go 11-1 or 12-0, he's going to make it. He's going to make it. He's going to be in the top 4. But I still don't know if that's enough to win it. Couple of names I want to talk about here. I said 5 breakout players for the college football season, and the breakout is angled toward the Heisman. 5 guys that can be in the Heisman conversation. Number 5, Brady Cook, Missouri. Missouri has been spending all their resources in recruiting. Missouri returns Brady Cook from last season. They also return arguably the best wide receiver in all of college football, Luther Burden. Luther Burden and Tedarea McMillan at Arizona are 2 of the best wide receivers in all of college football. Brady Cook played last year at 6'2", 207 pounds. He's entering his 5th season now at Missouri. Last year, 66% completion percentage, 64% the year before that. This last year, 21 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. It's not really that he hasn't broken out yet because he's been on the scene for 2 years. It's more so about taking a monumental step forward because of where Missouri he's at right now. Eli Drinkwitz is a hell of a head coach. I think Brady Cook vaults himself into that conversation. Number 4, Riley Leonard at Notre Dame. People saw what Riley Leonard could do at Duke under Mike Elko, but he didn't quite take that complete next step forward. Everyone was hyped about him last year. He should be in the conversation to be at the top end of the draft. 20 touchdowns, 6 picks in 2022, 63% completion percentage. Last year, fell down a little bit. Has the rushing output, big body. We saw him perform very well at the Manning Passing Academy just a few weeks ago. This guy had almost 700 rushing yards 2 seasons ago at Duke. I think he rebounds. Notre Dame's going to be in the top 10 conversation. Riley Leonard is sitting at plus 2,500 with a real chance to take that step forward like we've seen from these transfer quarterbacks over the last decade and be a guy that's in the Heisman conversation. Number 3, a real breakout, Nico, I can't say the last name. Iamaleava. People are going to correct me in the chat, but Nico Iamaleava from Tennessee. This is a true breakout because he's going to be a sophomore. He hasn't really played at all. He's got 45 career pass attempts. He's got a 62% completion percentage. He hasn't done anything. This is a real opportunity for him at Tennessee to break out, to win football games, and to potentially get himself into this conversation. We've seen this before with the likes of Caleb Williams, where that sophomore season, again, he takes the step, he wins the Heisman. Nico was looked at as a potential 6-star, a phenom, all those things. Nico, number 3 for me. It's not like it's a hot take or anything like that. Nico is literally right now around that 4th, 5th area, depending on the book you go to. He's plus 1,100 at BetMGM. He's plus 1,800 at Caesars, plus 1,600 at FanDuel. He's right in that Will Howard, Jalen Milroe area. Number 2, maybe my favorite, maybe, but number 1's definitely my favorite. Number 2, Cade Klubnik at Clemson. Over the last 13 years, he's won 10-plus games in 12 of those seasons. Last year, they disappointed. They won 9. Klubnik did not have the biggest year. He's a high-end recruit coming out of Austin, Texas. Cade Klubnik will bounce back. This is going to be his 3rd season now at Clemson. I think he takes a big step forward. 19 touchdowns, 9 interceptions last year, 2,800 yards. He gets Bryant Wesco, who's going to be a crazy phenom at the wide receiver position. He gets a bunch of dudes back from last year's team, including Adam Randall. I think Klubnik takes a step forward. You're looking at a 3,700-yard, 29 to 33 touchdowns. This is going to be the Klubnik come-out party. Clemson's going to bounce back. Everyone's hating on Dabo. Not so fast, my friend. And number 1, my favorite, a guy that declared for the NFL draft before going back to college, transferring to University of Miami. It's funny, actually, all 5 of these guys are quarterbacks. Cam Ward. Cam Ward started out at Incarnate Ward, transfers to Washington State for 2 seasons. In those 2 seasons, 48 touchdowns, 16 picks. Every single thing that we've heard this year has been positive for Cam Ward down on Miami. And Miami, talk about spending resources. Miami's, I'm not going to say the word back, but Miami has built the right way. Jason Taylor has been a dominant recruiter on the defensive side of the football, on the defensive line. They've gotten high-end recruits all over the roster. Cameron Ward coming in there is going to allow them to, I don't want to say skip ahead a year in the rebuild process because they've been rebuilding for a decade, but as far as the crystal ball projection goes, this is the year where they can take that big step forward. Samuel Brown coming over from Houston, a massive, massive transfer portal, a conversation that really hasn't been had. Everyone's talking about, Isaiah Bond going to Texas, Evan Stewart going to Oregon, Sammy Brown going down there to Miami is a big one to play with Xavier Restrepo, to play with Cam Ward, and of course the backfield's pretty strong itself with Damian Martinez going over there from Oregon State. So Cam Ward is my number 1 player to watch, number 1 breakout, number 1. Again, a lot of these guys are transfers. It just happens this way, but these transfer quarterbacks over the last decade that have taken that next step forward and just blown the roof off, it happens. Cam Ward right now, you can get him at plus 2,000 at BetMGM, at Bet365. He's plus 2,200 over at ESPN Bet. Cam Ward's the breakout at the quarterback position, a guy that will elevate Miami to potentially an ACC championship in 2024. Now, this is going to be a speedy one. We're going to run through my top 25 power ratings starting now. Number 25, UCF Knights. They come in with KJ Jefferson, Gus Malzahn. When I give you my grades here, it's out of a 1.000 scale. I got all these guys at a power rating. I have 36 teams ranked out. Hit me up on Twitter. I have the tweet. These are all out of a 1,000 point scale. So it's 1.00. So when I give you the score, it's point blank, blank, blank. Think about it as a percentage. Number 25, UCF Knights coming out of the Big 12, 0.727. So it's about 72.7% of 1,000 is perfect, right? Number 24, the USC Trojans with Miller Moss. I don't have high expectations for Lincoln Riley. I think the end of the season is going to spell an interesting one for Lincoln Riley and the USC Trojans once again as they enter the Big Ten. Virginia Tech at 23, 7.33. Add them as the number 4 team in the ACC. Kyron Drones is probably in the next 3 players in that breakout list. If I was to make that breakout list 8, he probably gets his name mentioned in there. Kyron Drones, Brent Fry has been doing a great job at Virginia Tech, and this team's on the cusp of kind of jumping back into that 8, 9, 10 win conversation where Virginia Tech belongs. Number 22, Nebraska Cornhuskers. Of course, Matt Rule. He's just phenomenal at turning this thing completely around. We'll see what happens to the quarterback position with Dylan Raiola, the freshman. Number 21, the Kansas Jayhawks. Devin Neal, Jalen Daniels, Lance Leipold. Not much to be said here. Leipold's a top 8 coach in all of college football. This is a top 25 team, potentially top 15 team. It's Kansas. It's the Big 12. They're going to be competitive. That's for damn sure. Number 20, Texas A&M. We're going to see what happens. I don't know what to think about Texas A&M. I think they've been handling this process very well, moving on from Jimbo. It's been a hell of an offseason. It feels like years ago that they got rid of Jimbo Fisher, but that literally happened this year. Connor Wagman's there. We'll see what happens. I have them number 20 on this list. A little bit nervous to see kind of what the rest of this whole thing looks like. There's rumors out there about potentially another quarterback ruffling feathers in that Texas A&M quarterback field. Number 19 will stay in the Big 12 there. Kansas State, Avery Johnson. Again, another one up there that I could have put in with that honorable mention mentioned list alongside Kyron Drones. Kansas State's going to be tough. Another Big 12 team is Oklahoma State. Ollie Gordon, going to rush for 2,000 yards. He's got his off-field stuff, but it sounds like that's going to be moved on fairly quickly. But Ollie Gordon's probably going to win that Doak Walker again for the second time now and rush for 2,000 yards in 2024. Number 17, the LSU Tigers. Number 16, Oklahoma Sooners with Jackson Arnold coming in his first season as a starter. Brent Venables, been a pretty solid coach. Some people think he's on a hot seat. Some people think he's disappointed. I think he's done a pretty damn good job at Oklahoma. They've done a pretty good job in the recruiting process. They missed on Lamont Rogers this past recruiting cycle. They got two big defenders returning in Billy Bowman and Danny Stutzman at the linebacker position. Oklahoma's going to be tough to beat, but they're definitely not getting quite the hype that Texas is getting at the moment. Number 15, the Liberty Flames. Caden Salter at the quarterback position by himself vaults them into this conversation. Quentin Cooley's on the roster as well. Two guys that are in the top 100 on the college football 25 video game as far as the ratings go. Liberty might be the team that makes the college football playoff of the non-power conferences. Run through tier 5 here. Penn State at 0.809. Liberty is at 0.784. Sorry, I forgot to mention that, but I got Penn State here, 14th over on the list. Florida State down at 13 over on the list. Florida State, I think, disappoints. I haven't brought up a couple of ACC teams that I think do finish ahead of Florida State this year. DJ Ungalele, I think he takes a step forward, but I don't think it's big enough to get this team into the real conversation. They lost a lot of players to the NFL, and people just expect Florida State to be back. I do not. Number 12, the team that will beat them, the rival, Miami Hurricanes. Cam Ward, we just talked about him. Number 12 on this list, just on the fringe of a top 10 team, 0.818. Again, Florida State was 0.816. A little bit ahead of them is Missouri at number 11, 0.830. They got Luther Burden, they got Brady Cook. Drinkwitz is killing it. The recruiting is killing it. They got a bunch of offensive linemen. They got a bunch of receivers. You remember Chase Daniel when he was at Missouri, and this was a conversation every single year? That's what's happening right now with Missouri and Brady Cook. And of course, they got Matt Zolters coming in next year, so they're going to be killing it. Number 10, Utah, potentially Kyle Whittingham's last run as the Utah head coach. We'll see if it's this year or next year, but he ankled at it. They are projected to be my Big 12 champs here at 0.834, the top of tier number 5. Tier number 4, number 9, I got Notre Dame, 0.860. Alabama, 0.862. Kalen DeBoer is going to continue this train. He is a kick-ass coach. He's going to continue to win. And number 7, the ACC champions, the Clemson Tigers. Cade Klubnik, Brian Wesco, Phil Maffa, and this disgusting defense, and Dabo Swinney. They're going to win the ACC, and they're going to be a top 10 team. They're going to host a playoff game. Write it down in ink. Number 6, Ole Miss Rebels, the third team in the SEC here with a 0.898. Tier number 2, Michigan Wolverines at 4, Oregon Ducks at 5, just hair grain between them, 0.913 for Michigan, 0.911 for Oregon. And tier number 1 overall is Georgia, number 2 overall is Ohio State, number 3 overall is the Texas Longhorns. Texas does not win the SEC championship, but I have them as the number 3 overall team. Again, this is a power rating, not a power ranking. Power rankings will be out in the next month. That is a quick snippet. 5 breakout players looking to be in the Heisman conversation and the top 25 power ratings for the 2024 college football season. This week, I'll be at the SEC Media Day. Stay tuned in, stay tapped in. Click that like button, click subscribe, and we'll be back next week with all things college football, Devy, and college football fantasy.